Please go ahead.
No, we were talking about bullying and
Bullying.
bullies. They don't always use physical violence, but it's about the criticism, or maybe they raise voices, they make you feel a certain way. So this can have a real effect on your self-esteem and actually your decision making. In a way, it's kind of like gaslighting because you are manipulating somebody's perception.
Yeah.
Absolutely correct.
And they pick on finding something that,
Yeah.
often an abuser will kind of go through that stage of, during that love bombing phase. Often what they're doing is gathering information about
Yeah.
you during that phase. So with all those kinds of great big gestures and that distraction around all of that kind of positive and what you feel to be really exciting and overwhelming enjoyment and love and what have you, this is when they're actually gathering information about you. And this then often gets utilized when it comes to things like bullying. So they'll make sure that they know where your areas of weaknesses are, where you're self-conscious, what you find difficult, and then they will exploit that.
Speaking of exploiting, this seems to be something that individuals feel being exploited. That was
Mm-hmm.
manipulation, excuse me, manipulation and exploiting. You just mentioned the word exploiting, are one of the subjects that were sent in to me that people wanted to see here on YouTube and talked about in a conversation format. So I'm glad you just mentioned about when it comes to a person being manipulated, as we just started off, as well as when it comes to being exploited. Is
Mm-hmm.
gaslighting a form of someone being exploited? Is something that someone had a question that they sent in to us. Is that exploiting someone?
I think it falls more into the manipulation
Okay.
category than we're being exploited in the sense that power and control is we're being taken advantage of. Maybe our kind nature and power and control is being extracted, and so maybe exploitation could be kind of fall into those kinds of realms. But gaslighting really is a manipulative technique. It's a psychologically a manipulative technique whereby your reality is called into question, or your perception of something is outright denied. You might even be told that you are crazy, or that you need help, or that it didn't happen that way. Those kinds of things are gaslighting, and they make you doubt how you are perceiving what's going on in front of you, or what someone's saying, or who they are.
So the manipulation is normally the thing that comes first, would you say, and then the exploitation?
I think they're happening
Okay.
simultaneously. I think it's
All right.
part of the campaign of domination, really, when it comes
Okay.
to that kind of extraction of energy through these different, and there's many and various techniques. These manipulation, the intimidation for some people, mirroring, baiting, all of these things can happen to kind of create this, often this almost like this spinning kind of existence, where you're not really sure where the next throat punch is coming from, almost, and you are just trying to get from one moment to the next, really. And it's that keeps you stuck often in the cycle, because they use so many different techniques that it can take a while for the same thing to be repeated. And so for you to be able to identify a pattern of behavior in somebody can take some time, and that serves them, because that gives the opportunity for things like the trauma bond to form really deeply, or for you to be isolated from friends and family, or you to be financially dependent on them. And it all goes to create this complete power and control picture that ultimately is the aim.
So a person needs to be careful not to rush into a relationship, rush into a friendship or a
Mm.
situation, because this manipulation, as you say, this pattern, this programming of control, dominance, can take some time. Um, I have on the screen there under the subheading distortion that was from the WebMD article. It says another strategy used by emotionally manipulative people is the distortion of facts. relative importance, or other information needed to accurately assess a situation. But the next paragraph may connect with a number of people who watch this back or are here with us now. In some cases, the manipulator will simply lie or pretend ignorance about a matter. What are your thoughts on some of these points that are highlighted there?
I think this is really important to note, because the distortion of reality. Okay, so this is the way that the narcissist or the toxic person sees the situation. Okay, they have to distort the truth because the truth doesn't serve them. Okay, it brings out, or it highlights their inabilities, their disorder. Okay, I'm talking pathological narcissist, like personality disorder. So what I feel like a manipulation, when you are emotionally manipulated, what's going on is that you are being forced, or you are being dragged into this world of theirs, full of lies, full of distortion, okay, where they don't have, or they have a very very strange way, or there's a thin line between reality and fantasy, and you are kind of dragged into this world, okay, and we don't know what is reality, we don't know what is fantasy. That is what's going on in their mind, all right, and you are being dragged into this. So of course this is going to feel like, this is going to be very strange. You know, it's going to be like, you know, we're not going to understand this. This is going to feel like a distortion of reality, because that is indeed what is going on in their mind. This is a dysfunctional ego at play here. Okay. And so psychologically or cognitively, the narcissist, the toxic person, is just communicating this distortion that's going on in their mind. And that's why it comes out as, you know, distortion of facts, relative importance, or other information needed to accurately access a situation. All of this is distorted. They lie, they pretend ignorance about a matter. Exactly that. That's why they do that. I'm talking more of on a psychological level here. Yes, these are the behaviors that they do, but what if we look at it like underneath all of this? Why does this person need to do this? I mean, what is going on here?
Yeah.
You know, it's a distortion of reality, and they want us to believe this distortion as our own reality.
And they exist inside this false reality. You know, they form this false reality very early on in life, to ultimately as a defense mechanism to whatever it is that's gone to disrupt their actual reality. But like Anushka says, you know, you get drawn into this web of confusion, because they don't know who they are. They don't know what is truth. They're lying to themselves all the time. They're lying to other people all the time. You know, all of those things that they're doing outwardly, they're doing inwardly to try and protect this very, very fragile ego that ultimately kind of is part of that false reality, is the kind of shell on that false reality that they're trying to
Absolutely.
live inside.
When you're working with individuals, either through your Instagram pages or through your YouTube channels, because both of you have YouTube channels as well as Instagram pages, your website, number of ways you reach out to individuals to help them. When you work with individuals, a lot of people you work with, do they even have an idea that they're being gaslit?
I think the first challenge that we come up against is just getting very clear on what gaslighting is. And often, yes, they have been being gaslit. They know that they have had their reality denied. They know that they have often experienced that accusation that you don't understand what's going on, you're crazy, that isn't how it happened, and these outright lies. But actually, more so, we find that because so much gaslighting happens, and it happens so subtly, that people start to self-gaslight. And this often becomes a kind of the first thing to overcome when it
What
comes
do you
to
mean?
me
What do you
supporting
mean by that?
people.
What do you mean by that self-gaslight for those who
Well, because
don't
so much of
understand?
the reality is so much of your reality is doubted inside the relationship, that your mind starts to just naturally go to a place where you doubt reality, because so often the response to your perception of what's going on is questioned and undermined and invalidated, that you start to do that to yourself. It's just a part of the way that the brain works.
When it comes to emotionally manipulative people, they have a tendency to look to prey on individuals. That's their objective. Let's take a look at this next screenshot that we have here. It says many people are highly susceptible to guilt and will even go so far as to punish themselves in response to perceived sins. Emotionally manipulative people prey on this vulnerability. They are apt to play the victim or remind you of past favors. And it goes on and says a number of other things. Guilt and shame is often used, that's what's highlighted in the WebMD article on emotional manipulation. They often use guilt and shame to hold control, or as you said, Eve, dominance over someone, gaslighting, and a number of other things. How can a person wiggle their way free from that trauma bond that's created dealing with emotionally manipulative people?
I think what you have to realize, first of all, is that you do have a trauma bond to this person. I think that you have to gain awareness that actually this is what has happened to you. And I feel like you have to, and this is what a lot of my work actually is about, what it highlights is that connection to self, the self-generation, regeneration. This is the connection to self. We know ourselves that something doesn't feel right, which is why we have questioned it, which is why we have, sought these answers, which is why, our clients or people watching this, that you have felt that something is not right, and you have sought answers and you have found them, and you realize that, oh my God, this person is really not well. They have a personality disorder. They're very toxic and they have been abusing me. Okay, and so there is a level of acceptance that we have to understand that what we are experiencing is a toxic cocktail of hormones and neurons, and emotionally being bound to somebody that is a reminder maybe of the past of someone. Maybe it feels familiar, and that actually we have to break free from this. So this is an emotional and psychological bonding that we have to this person, but actually it's not in our favor. It is a very toxic one. It's killing us. So we have to gain awareness and understanding that actually this is what it is. We have to take the correct steps and precautions to break free from this.
Not easy though, right?
It is not easy, but it is doable. Okay, it is
Yes,
doable.
Yeah.
And that's what I want everyone to know.
it's
Yes, it is.
absolutely doable.
It
is absolutely
it's
doable.
gonna be difficult. Yeah, it's going to be difficult, but you will get through this.
More people are finding that they need a support group. They need support when they try to make these steps to break the trauma bond. I know, Eve, you have a program that works with individuals with that. I know, of course, Anushka, you work with individuals. Let's take a look at something. I'll put it up on the screen here for us to consider. From the WebMD article, it mentions if you experience regular and distressing emotional manipulation from another person, your relationship with that person may be abusive. It highlights some other points to keep in mind, but it gives some action points in that second paragraph. Feel free to talk about those as well, especially that last sentence. But if a person is dealing with someone or a situation, work-related, family-related, whatever it may be, experiencing, as it put it in the article, regular and distressing emotional manipulation from another person, your relationship with that person may be abusive. Any thoughts, please?
Yeah, well, I just was going to I just wanted, because it does relate to this, is just talk about that guilt thing, because I think many people get stuck at that guilt. And I just want to kind of invite an alternative view on guilt, or an idea that really guilt is actually kind of the emotion that we experience when we have this fear of being disliked. And that's where guilt often comes from, is it's about this fear of being disliked. Now, whether that's being disliked by ourselves, by standards that we hold ourselves to, whether that's standards that we're being held to by society, or if it's a standard that we're being held to by an abuser. But guilt is often this fear of being disliked. And so really the first way to challenge guilt and to kind of step into your truth is to ask, who is it that is going to dislike me if I take this action? And is their opinion one that is valid? Is this somebody that I need to like me? Is this someone I want to like me? Because if a person is abusive, then they're not a good judge of character. Invariably, they're not a particularly nice person. They certainly aren't rooted in kindness and compassion. So actually, do we need them to like us? Is that really bringing anything to our life? And at that point, we can release that guilt, and you can certainly release the shame, because, well, you know, sod what they think. They're an abuser.
I was waiting for you. I was waiting. I said, it's going to come out. Eve's going to say it. Kick them to the curb is what she means, just in case. These two beautiful women from the UK who have endured the beginning of this first show of 2022 with me. That means I'm getting all my cobwebs off and, you know, literally trying to get my microphone to work because I'm goofy. But they bring the seriousness to the content that we're providing for you. This free TV here on NARCISSISTS TV Network will be available to you for the next 12 months and beyond. But today is the first day of 2022 of doing this, and they've allowed me to be goofy. Let's do this. I want to know from both of you, what do you think about that last sentence that is up there on the screen in that second paragraph? It says, the only reliable way to stop being abused by someone is to leave the situation. Your thoughts?
Want me to go first?
Yeah, go on.
Just absolutely, 100%. It is the only way. It's the only way to protect our peace, is to get out of the situation and end the relationship. And it's only at that point, when you can disconnect from the relationship, that you can then start to do the work to disconnect and disengage from the trauma bond, if you haven't already done that during the relationship. Some people do disconnect the trauma bond through the relationship as they start to feel that their head comes above the parapet and the truth starts to kind of settle and the fog dissipates. But ultimately, either you come out and you break that trauma bond, or you've broken that trauma bond and you get out. But there's going to be a lot of deep healing to do once you do get out of the relationship. And it just isn't possible to do that kind of healing with a toxic person who is invariably manipulating the situation to serve them at all times. And, you know, viewing the whole every interaction with them from that day forth through the lenses of, this person is trying to gain power and control, this person is manipulating me. No matter how nice they might appear to be being on the surface, there will be an underlying motive which is not rooted in kindness, compassion, understanding, love. None of those things.
I couldn't agree more, Eve. That was a brilliant explanation. Really, really good. At the beginning of that paragraph, what it said was, manipulators or abusers find it very difficult to stop abusing. And that is very true. Those are profound words. They find it very difficult to stop. So that means that they have no awareness, or they choose to have no awareness. You know why? Because it's meeting their needs. They're getting exactly what they want. So why will they change? Why change doing something that is getting you the results?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so at the end of that paragraph, it says the only way to end this cycle is to leave. Well, actually, that's very true, because this person has no idea or has no awareness, but actually, even if they did, they were not going to stop. So how do you contend? How do you then help this person to see that what they're doing is actually hurting you, or it's toxic behavior? They're not interested. They're not interested in that. So the only way that you can get through this is to respond, not react, but to respond to this situation and actually just walk away. You don't need to justify yourself. You don't need to explain anything. Just walk away, and you will save yourself.
So now we get into this aspect of the article, because technically what you just said is exactly what the article was highlighting. Leave that painful, abusive relationship if that person doesn't want to work with you because they're out to sabotage you. But it does throw a little twist into our discussion, because it gives 4 points that we need to keep in mind. And I'll put it up on the screen now. It says, for example, if you cannot leave the situation, the following actions may help to counter emotionally manipulative tactics in the moment. It gives 4 different aspects there. And I have another slide that I'll pull up in just a second. But let's talk a little bit about these as we have gone 36 minutes now in talking. And I truly appreciate you both doing this. And I look forward to you joining me again with our Healing from Narcissism 2022 shows over the next 11 months now, because you kicked it off for us today. I appreciate it greatly. The first point that's highlighted is avoid people who engage in love bombing. Of course, many people have an idea of what that is, can Google it and look it up. If you want to touch on a definition, feel free to do so. But what can you say about that first point, avoiding people who engage in love bombing?
I just want to, because it's difficult to identify what is love bombing. You know, you could potentially feel quite cynical if somebody is making grand gestures, or is being very kind. You know, is it love bombing? Is it not love bombing? Trust your intuition. And if you do not feel connected to your intuition, then spend some time working to be connected with your intuition before you even find yourself in a situation where somebody has the opportunity to love bomb you. You know, that is that getting in touch with yourself, getting in touch with your intuitive senses, which we all have, male, female, whoever, you know, whatever gender or that you identify with. You know, we all have a deep intuition that is available for us to be tapped into, and it can be worked with. And that will often highlight whether somebody is acting in a way that is genuine and is peace, and it brings you a sense of peace and a sense of safety, or if it is chaotic and it is desperate and it is over the top and just seems like it's off. And your intuition is going to be your biggest weapon with love bombing. So that's something that I would just encourage everybody to work on.
Right.
I really want to talk about boundaries. Assert yourself and your boundaries out aloud. So again, this is really about knowing your boundaries. And the only way that you're going to know what your boundaries are is if you are connected to yourself, like what Eve was saying about intuition, also really having a relationship with yourself. Now, if you are being emotionally manipulated, it's very difficult to have that, because you don't know what is yours, what's theirs, and it's just very confusing. But I think it's like the point that we were making earlier, actually, of this show, this episode, actually, it's about really connecting to yourself. Okay, something doesn't feel right. So what is it that doesn't feel right? This is about gaining the awareness. And when you have awareness, this is what it means by assert yourself. Okay, assert yourself. So bring attention to what is not fulfilling, what doesn't seem right. This is about our intuition, and this is about connecting to ourselves and understanding what our boundaries are. What do we accept and what we don't? Even if it feels rude, you have to be able to protect yourself. That's what boundaries are. Okay, you're not going to allow everyone to assault you. You have to protect yourself. And if anyone wants to know a bit more about boundaries, I am running an online course in March. It's on the 22nd. You can find more information on my website. And that's an online workshop for anybody who wants to build on building resilient boundaries, ones that you can carry forward even out of this relationship. It's also for people who are in toxic relationships too. So it can really help you all round.
Awesome.
Sounds amazing. Yeah, it sounds really, really good.
I have to put this up on the screen. Hopefully you can see that there. I'm going to switch over here. We all get to see ourselves together. This is from our comment section. Someone in the audience. Eye rolling was a red flag I ignored because I didn't realize a sign of arrogance. This is from their personal experience. Any thoughts?
Go on, Eve.
Oh, well, I just think, the first thing I'm thinking of is like body language, because we speak with our mouths, but we speak with our body so much more. And again, this is that thing of getting in touch with your intuition, because when you intuitively pick up on the way that people are holding themselves, the way that they react to certain things, our intuition is often telling us what is actually going on with that person. And it's having that deep sense of trust in who you are. As Anushka was saying there, you can't have boundaries without knowing who you are, because you don't know where your limits lie. Right. And it's kind of, I always think it's a kind of like poetically ironic that it's in the limits of boundaries that we actually find freedom, that we actually are able to truly express ourselves.
You do it every time. You cannot do that. You can't drop knowledge and just keep moving on. Repeat that again. It's in the limits of boundaries
that we find our freedom.
That's awesome. That's beautiful. You need to go post that as soon as we're done. I know it's okay. By the way, if anybody's watching this, these two beautiful ladies are here from the UK. They both are in the UK, giving up their evening. Well, kind of, actually Anushka, she has something very important to do when she's done here. She's going to party with Prince as if it's 1999. But anyhow, but that's a beautiful statement. And everybody, please feel free to rewind that part of the show if you want to do so. But look for that. I'm going to put some pressure on Eve to make a posting on that. That's awesome. That was really good. I'm going to need to segue because we're going to be moving to the end of our show. Again, this is our first show back from last year. And I am just very, very happy, so excited that I was able to do this show with you ladies today. Well, I need to do this. Here we go. Let's see if we get back here. Hold on a second here. I'm going to move things around here. And we're going to go here. And we're going to go here. The first 2 points were highlighted. Love bombing and the boundaries. But notice the last two. Speak to others about the emotional manipulation and get their validation. In other words, as it is just for me, share your story, tell your story. Find someone who will understand you. Don't look for everybody to believe you, but at least seek those who understand you because they have been through it as well. I'm just throwing that in there because we are going to be ending the show in a moment here. The fourth one, take your time instead of being rushed into decisions you may regret. Those two are very important. A lot of young people are finding our channel and finding us on Instagram. Why is this information important for those who are new to relationships?
I think they're so key. I think, speaking to others is a great way to just sanity check yourself, especially those that might have been through similar experiences. And the internet is a wonderful thing when it comes to finding people that have shared experiences and being able to really quickly and easily access support if you want it, and you can, and you're there to kind of engage with it. When it comes to taking your time, there's something that I always, when I'm looking at developing communication strategies with clients, so that they have got really, really clear idea of how they're going to manage communication, especially when it comes to like when they're parenting together, or they're not able to completely go no contact. And that time thing is always one of the fundamental parts of the communication strategy, because so often we are conditioned inside the relationship to be like an emergency response to their needs all the time. You know, we're always on hand to almost preempt their needs, because we've done that from a survival point of view and to protect our own emotional well-being. But they become expectant of that, and actually stepping back and saying, do you know what, 24 to 48 hours to respond to somebody is a totally acceptable period of time. There is no requirement, just because a text message or an email comes through, that we need to make a response straight away. Taking time, thinking about our response, sitting on it, sanity checking it with somebody that we trust. Often we can go through 2 or 3 iterations of a response, and sometimes we can get to the realization that all the response that was required was okay, or no response at all. Because remember, no response is a response.
Anushka,
Absolutely.
I want you to know that when you're out dancing and partying and having a good time tonight,
Why'd you have to tell everybody?
when you're out partying and dancing and having a good time,
serious,
wait,
serious, we're helping people, and you're telling everyone I'm going
girlfriend,
to
why you want to front me like that in front of everybody? and when I'm washing dishes later and you're out partying and dancing, and Eve is she's being a mom over there putting people to bed and stuff, and we're gonna be thinking about you, but I know you're not gonna be thinking about us.
I will.
Of course.
I
will. You are wrong there. I will be.
You will.
It's not going to be a late one. It's not going to be a late one.
Yeah, you're gonna do that in and out. Make sure you go by and get some free grub. Pick up the free grub and bring it back home. Go ahead.
I will do.
We know what kind of party goer Paxton is.
But yeah, hey, you invite me to your party, I'm bringing you. Come with 2 bags. I'm putting food. Okay, so and Eve, I want you to make sure you get some rest and take care of that cough, that lingering thing.
I know, it's the tail end of something.
Yeah, you get me worried about you. I'm gonna put something up on the screen, and I need you to comment on it, and feel free to pass on some information and your thoughts on this. Support and resources are necessary for those that are experiencing abuse. Individuals are constantly looking to take advantage in these critical times we live in of other individuals and manipulate them emotionally, and even to the point of domestic violence. So please, all of you who watch this, if it's not you, maybe it's a neighbor or someone you know, or a family member. It states, depending on the source and type of emotional manipulation, you may benefit from professional counseling or a support group. And of course, here on the screen is the National Domestic Violence Hotline for you. If you feel a need for it, jot it down, share it with a friend who may be going through something. Your thoughts, please.
It's very important to get validation, okay? Because you don't have to go through this alone. You already know that something doesn't feel right and you don't feel good. When you're in a relationship with somebody, you should, if it's a healthy relationship, you should feel happy. You should feel completely different. This is, you know that it's all wrong. You're not feeling good. You feel very sad. So it's really important that you get validation. You don't have to do this alone. This is about you getting all the information to help you make an informed decision.
Eve,
absolutely.
last
you
thoughts,
are absolutely
thoughts,
not
please.
alone. Yeah, you're absolutely not alone. And sorry. And I run a support group myself. It's an online support group. We meet on Zoom twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week. We share information, we share support. There are women and men in the group that are at all stages of, you know, some of them are still in relationships, some of them are just out, and some of them are on their path to healing. And it makes an incredibly supportive environment where people just understand what you've been through. And if you've got any questions about whether what you've been through is abuse or whether it's normal to feel this way, it's a great place to get validation and support. And it is key. It's key. We heal in community. You know, people are so much, and especially the types of people that often are experiencing these kinds of relationships, is we are compassionate, giving, kind souls. And so by offering that compassion and kindness to others, we often are able to see how to offer it to ourselves. And that's just a trick of the mind that happens. It can sometimes be a lot easier to share our kindness and compassion with other people than it can be to show ourselves. But in doing that, we teach ourselves how to kind of take it back inwards.
Yeah, thank you so much, both of you ladies, for being here. It is very important that we continue to hold on to ourselves emotionally, even when others don't respect us or appreciate us. So whatever you're going through and struggling through, it may need some professional counseling or a support group or some coaching. But these two beautiful ladies are there for you, as well as the other 3 individuals that are a part of our original program when we first started. So you will see them as well in the future over the next few months here on Narcabuse TV Network on YouTube. These YouTube lives will be available for you. We covered today, before we go, manipulation. We didn't get a chance to spend much time on the silent treatment or others, but we will. We did talk about gaslighting, emotional bullying, and we did have this information for you, passive aggression. We will talk more about that in the future, and we did touch on guilt and shame. There are 6 different aspects that were highlighted in this WebMD article that can be beneficial to you if you're dealing with a knucklehead, a troublemaker in your life. They're out there, and maybe you've allowed them into your inner circle. You do not have to continue to live an oppressed emotional life. These ladies are there for you. Reach out to them on their websites and on Instagram, and by all means, support them. And we, of course, ask you support us as well by like, comment, and, of course, subscribing to our page. Ladies, we got to go, but I appreciate you so much. You have been awesome in every step of the way. I have a question before we go. If you had to say the thing that you want everyone to know right now about the other side of going through this, what do they need to look to as a goal? What's the benefit on the other side of going through this manipulation and dealing with a narcissist or a toxic person? Eve?
That's a big question. Good question, but a big question. Having a deep sense, I know, having a deep sense of who you are, and that who you are has always been enough and will always be enough. That no matter what's happened in your life, no matter what anyone's told you, no matter what you've told yourself, at the core of your being is a consciousness that is absolutely worthy of everything that you dream of. And it's there for you to find and to take and to run with.
Beautiful. Anushka?
I would absolutely mirror that and say the same.
Eve, she's shaking her leg. She's ready. She's gonna say something. Go ahead. I'm scared. Now go.
No, Eve is you're absolutely right. This is about really tapping into your own resources. It's about gaining awareness, really connecting to yourself, because that's why that person was in your life, because you weren't connected to you. And on the other side of that, you will rediscover a life that actually was already yours, that was meant for you, but now you can grab it with both hands. It's ultimately, it is freedom. That's what freedom feels like.
It is.
Beautiful, beautiful. You were not
Beautiful.
connected to yourself, so I like that. All right, ladies, I appreciate it. Everyone else that has stopped by now and will watch this back later, thank you. We've only had this channel up for 2 months. We have not even put a third of the videos that we've made. So continue to keep an eye out. You will see the videos and interviews from these ladies and many more. So thank you so much. You ladies
Thank
are
you.
awesome.
Sending everyone lots of love.
Yes, the UK rocks. Go ahead, send your love. We're out of here. Thank you very much. Hey,
Bye.
party time. See you later. Love you guys. Bye, everybody.